If you think that India, a place where chaos and lack of hygiene are your limit, wait until you visit Bangladesh. This country not only defies any notion of organization and cleanliness, but also takes the idea of survival in extreme conditions to a new level. Get ready, because what you'll discover about Bangladesh could forever change your view of what it's really like to survive in one of the most challenging places in the world. Today, we're going to reveal 12 facts that will shock you about one of the most densely populated, polluted, and unhealthy countries on the planet. Put on your mask, glasses, and, if possible, gloves, because you are about to embark on a journey full of bizarre scenes and truly impressive events. Number 1. Geography. Bangladesh, located in the heart of South Asia, shares borders with India to the north, west and east, Myanmar to the southeast, and is bathed in the south by the Bay of Bengal. The country is marked by a predominantly flat and low-lying landscape, with vast alluvial plains formed by the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers, which cut through its territory in an imposing way. These rivers are not just a geographical feature, but are essential to the lives of their inhabitants. With more than 700 rivers crossing the country, Bangladesh has become a veritable water maze. These rivers play a vital role, being primary sources of irrigation, drinking water supply, and, of course, fishing grounds, one of the main economic activities that support millions of people throughout the territory. Number 2. Population density. Bangladesh occupies the impressive position of the 8th most populous country in the world, with a population that already exceeds 160 million people, all in a relatively small territory. This number means that the country has one of the highest population densities on the planet, with some areas reaching an impressive 1,200 people per square kilometer. This intense demographic pressure places a huge burden on natural resources and infrastructure, creating a scenario where challenges for the government and the population are constant. In many places, overcrowding makes daily life even more difficult, with shortages of housing, transport, and essential services, generating a daily struggle for survival. Number 3. Pollution. Pollution in Bangladesh has reached alarming levels, especially in large cities like Dhaka, which is considered one of the most polluted on the planet. The air quality is breathtaking, but not in a good way. Fine particles of pollution are in the air at levels that exceed the safety limits set by the World Health Organization, WHO, by several times. The situation is no better when it comes to drinking water. The shortage is extreme, and the water that reaches residents is often contaminated, putting the health of millions of people at risk. For many, water sources are unsafe, and even the most basic of our resources, such as drinking clean water, becomes a major challenge. Number 4. Life in the favelas. With population growth accelerating and infrastructure unable to keep pace, many people in Bangladesh are forced to live in extremely poor conditions in slums. Houses are often built with improvised materials, such as metal sheets and pieces of wood, forming a survival scenario where creativity is the only way to maintain a minimum of dignity. The streets in these areas are a reflection of chaos, with trash scattered everywhere and open sewage, creating an unhealthy and dangerous environment for everyone. In these places, health is a constant concern, with frequent outbreaks of waterborne diseases and the aggravating factor of a great lack of access to quality medical services, making the fight for survival even more difficult. Number 5. Chaotic transportation system. The transport system in Bangladesh is a real mess, marked by overcrowding and total chaos. The streets of Dhaka and other major cities are often congested, and the lack of efficient public transport only makes the situation even worse. The result is endless traffic jams, which make life in the city even more difficult and frustrating for residents. Public transport, such as buses and rickshaws, those three-wheeled vehicles, are real points of tension. Crowded beyond capacity, they become a daily battle for those who depend on them. To make matters worse, many drivers drive recklessly, disregarding any type of signage, which makes urban mobility one of the biggest difficulties the population faces. Long hours of commuting in uncomfortable and dangerous conditions are just another chapter in the fight for survival in Bangladesh's cities. Number 6. Food crisis. Although Bangladesh has made significant progress in several areas, food insecurity remains a major concern. With accelerated population growth, the resources to support this expansion are not keeping pace. Food shortages are especially critical in rural areas, where extreme poverty limits access to adequate and sufficient food. The government has tried to alleviate the situation with food distribution programs, but this help often does not reach everyone who really needs it. In many regions, people face the difficult reality of living with little food and in a constant state of food vulnerability, which further worsens inequalities and living conditions in the country. Number 7. Natural disasters. Bangladesh occupies an extremely vulnerable geographic position, located in one of the regions in the world most prone to natural disasters. The country is constantly hit by devastating floods, cyclones, and storms, phenomena that affect millions of people annually. The vast floodplains and proximity to the sea make Bangladesh especially susceptible to massive flooding, especially during the monsoon season. These disasters not only result in significant human losses, but also cause immense damage to the country's infrastructure, destroying roads, homes, and essential water systems, making recovery even more difficult for many families and communities. Number 8. Extreme poverty. Despite some significant development efforts, poverty still remains one of the biggest challenges in Bangladesh. Approximately a quarter of the population lives below the poverty line, with many families struggling to survive on extremely tight budgets. The lack of access to essential basic services, such as education, health, and decent housing, further worsens this reality. This scenario creates a vicious cycle of poverty, where subsequent generations face the same difficulties as their parents, without being able to break the social and economic barriers that keep them in a constant state of vulnerability. Number 9. Child labor. Child labor is a painful reality and present in many parts of Bangladesh, both in urban and rural areas. To help support their families, many children are forced to work from a very early age, facing extremely precarious and often dangerous conditions. Clothing factories, which supply major international brands, are a clear example of this exploitation. In these factories, children and adolescents work in unhealthy environments, without any type of protection or labor rights. This type of work not only compromises children's childhood, but also places them in situations of constant risk, without the possibility of access to education or a better future. Number 10. Textile industry. Bangladesh stands out as one of the world's largest producers of clothing and textile products, and the textile industry is one of the main sources of employment for millions of people in the country. However, behind this economic success hides a reality of extremely precarious working conditions and constant exploitation of workers, especially in factories where employees' rights are systematically ignored. Tragedies such as the collapse of the Rana Plaza building in 2013, which resulted in the deaths of more than 1,100 people, bring to light the dangers of this industry. Despite the growing global demand for cheap clothing, workers continue to face a risky scenario, with exhausting hours, unhealthy environments, and low wages, while safety conditions in factories continue to be neglected. Number 11. The fight for gender equality. Despite some advances over the years, gender equality is still far from being a reality in Bangladesh. Women continue to face inequalities in various areas of life, from access to education to their insertion in the job market and politics. Gender discrimination remains deeply rooted in society, hampering the path to meaningful change. Furthermore, issues such as domestic violence and child marriage remain serious challenges, affecting thousands of girls and women across the country. Although there are organizations dedicated to defending women's rights and combating these injustices, the fight for gender equality remains a constant battle, which requires collective effort and profound cultural transformations. Number 12. Hope and resilience. Despite all the challenges the country faces, the people of Bangladesh are widely recognized for their incredible resilience. Communities come together to overcome daily difficulties, and there is a strong sense of solidarity that permeates society. People, even in the most adverse conditions, find ways to support each other, creating a collective spirit that is, in itself, an example of strength. Additionally, many NGOs and international organizations have played a key role in improving living conditions in the country, bringing support and resources to those who need it most. Bangladeshi youth are also increasingly engaged in social and environmental change initiatives, seeking to transform the country's future for generations to come. These are just some of the aspects of Bangladesh, a country that, despite adversity, continues to fight courageously for survival and progress. Now tell us what caught your attention the most. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This encourages me to keep bringing more content. Until the next video.